At work, your time is your currency of impact and influence, and how you manage it will determine your level of productive productivity. However, all too often in America today, today's U.S. worker spends too much time not having their time as their most elevated and prized commodity of difference. A recent survey from Eagle Hill Consulting revealed 68% of today's U.S. workforce spends time on low value or inefficient tasks while on the clock in the office, with most admitting they want better strategies and solutions to manage their time. Furthermore, additional data from the Time Doctor says that 82% of Americans' workers lack a time management system. And a Hubstaff report suggested that the same 82% of today's workforce does not have a way to effectively manage their time. If you fall under this category, today's conversation with my friend Angelina Rivera is one that you can't afford to miss. She's a business consultant who helps busy professionals streamline their life, better effectively manage their time, productivity, and performance. She's also the host of the podcast Refine and Shine, which explores the world of continuous improvement and optimization, not just in business, but in all areas of life. Each episode explores insightful conversations with thought leaders, business professionals, experts in various fields, all providing tips that are practical and noteworthy. Everything from personal growth, finance, and health and wellness. This podcast is your go-to resource for inspiration and motivation. Rivera's mission is simple. She's committed to helping you make positive change so that you can become the best version of yourself. And she joined me this week to talk everything time management, personal wealth, and well-being as well. I'm Kevin McShann. Let's have this conversation. Angelina, if you're ready, my friend, I'll take a moment to welcome you to the program. And I'm super excited to dive into your work in time management. Great to see you this afternoon, and thanks so very much for being here.
Thank you so much. I appreciate being here.
Absolutely. So, Angelina, I know that you work with busy professionals to help them streamline their time management and really focus on what really matters in life, my friend. So I'm wondering if we could start our conversation by you telling me about your work and what makes you so fabulous, my friend.
Yes, thank you for the opportunity. So I have a multiple of things that I do. I'm a coach. I help people with time management. I help people with their distractions and things like that. Because so many times in a day, we are distracted. On average, the person picks up their phone at least 96 times a day. And so you're distracted. You're not focused on the things that you set out to do. Time management is so important because when we get to time management, it's not something that we can bank. We can't store time. Every second we're fleeing, like it's being used. We don't save it, right? And so it's how do we spend our time so that we are doing the things that we're supposed to be doing. What being intentional when we sit down to focus on something. A lot of people don't like the word work-life balance because you really can't balance everything. But my thought and my philosophy behind my program is making sure that we're intentional, we're present, we're not overwhelmed, and then when we sit down and have a schedule, that we're able to prioritize the things that need to be done, that we're able to make sure we're taking time for ourselves. A lot of times we're so busy, we're doing all of these things, but we're not really being productive. We're trying to multitask, and when we multitask, we're only putting, like, say you're doing three things at one time. That means your brain has to divide its capacity to be able to function. Each task is taking up 33%, 33.5% or whatever, 33.3%, meaning you're not really truly present. Then that leads to mistakes, that leads to error. And when you have mistakes and defects and all these things, like I'm thinking defects like the manufacturing, you have errors, then you have to redo things. So did you really save time when you're multitasking? Not really. And so I help those entrepreneurs figure out how they can navigate through all of the challenges that they're facing, taking care of the kids, being a spouse, a working spouse, being outside the home, all of these things. How do they make sure that they can get their time back for themselves to be able to be the best person that they can be so that they're not pouring from an empty cup, being so exhausted, that they're taking care of their health, that they're taking care of that time with their family and all of the things so that they can just be at peace. Oh, no, you're fine. And so the other thing that I do, besides my coaching, I also do consulting. I help businesses look at where's the waste in their processes. So many times we don't realize that we may be doing a process that has a bunch of waste in it. And when I say waste, it's meaning it's not adding value to the end product. Maybe we're going from, or we're disorganized. We have to, so like the way the business is structured, it's disorganized, meaning that we're just walking through all these things, wasting time. Movement is a waste of time. And so how can we streamline their processes? How can we maybe rearrange some things? And so those are some of the things that I do as well, and as well as have my podcast, Refine and Shine podcast.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Angela, I'm curious if we can dive into, rebuilding or simplifying operations, or we're really getting time freedom back, because I know you work, as you said, to simplify operations, but you also talk to people about eliminating burnout. And in today's society, I think eliminating burnout is super important. So I wonder if you had people take a sort of a life audit of their systems and processes, how do you think we can help them simplify their operations and eliminate burnout at the same time? My friend, what are your thoughts there?
Well, the first thing I invite people to do is to kind of track what they're doing. And I call this a time audit. It's something that we can use to measure what we're spending our time on. So it's a simple form. I have it as a free resource on my website. But you download this form and you track everything you do from the time that you wake up to the time you go to sleep. And I tell people, you have to be honest with yourselves. If you're lying on this form, then you're lying to yourself. Like, be honest. If watch Netflix for 45 minutes or an hour, if you were scrolling on social media for 45 minutes, and I'm not saying that social media is bad, but were you just scrolling, or were you engaging in connections? What were you actually doing? Maybe you went to the grocery store 10 times in the last 4 days. Like, I tell them to do it for at least 3 to 4 days. Well, maybe you need to work. Maybe we can look at, once you get this time audit and you're writing everything that you're doing, then I go and help them assess what they're spending their time on. If they're going to the grocery store 10 times in 4 days, I help them figure out a solution, a system that'll help them with the way they can buy their groceries. Maybe using your phone to create a grocery list. That way, and then when you go plan your grocery list out, you're going to go to the groceries, look at how you can look at your route and where can you go and accomplish this in one day by going to all the places at one time instead of back and forth. Or maybe you're really busy and the groceries, you're spending too much time buying the groceries. Is there a way that you can order ahead? There's Instacart. There's all types of solutions out there. It's just what's going to work for you. For my family personally, we love shopping at Costco. However, there's not a Costco in our town. So when we go to a Costco trip, it's at least a half-hour drive. And then it's, of course, 3 hours because you want to look through all the things. We're wasting time. We're spending a lot of money. And because we just buy all these things that we didn't expect to buy. And so when there's some months when we don't really have a little bit of extra money, and I'm like, we're just going to order Costco and have it delivered. Yes, it's going to be a little bit more cost, but in the long run, we're saving money because we're saving time. We're not having to spend the 4 hours. If you value what your time is, say your time is worth $100 an hour, we're not going to be wasting 4 hours shopping, right? So we kind of have a net gain of $400. And so those are the types of things that I do. And I tell people one of the most important things is that we never schedule time for ourselves. We never do it. So when you schedule your calendar, I invite people to use a calendar. And when you schedule time for the calendar, the first thing that you should do to avoid burnout is schedule time for your self-care. When are you going to do your workouts? When are you going to eat? When are you going to, have some downtime to relax? That's really important. And I say that when you schedule these, you need to treat them as an appointment to yourself. You need to make sure that you're getting that workout in, that you're getting, your nutrients in, you're feeding your body. Because when we keep going and going and going and we're not feeding ourselves good nutrients, then we're going to get overwhelmed and we're going to burn out. I've been there. It is not a fun thing to do. So that's one of the things I teach to avoid burnout. The second thing is I tell people to schedule, when you schedule your calendar, where are you going to take that time to do your date nights with your spouse? Like once we do this time audit and then we, look at your time, but if you're not like working with me directly, when you're scheduling your calendar, you need to make sure that you're scheduling time for yourself first. Scheduling your When I say scheduling time for yourself first, I'm talking about making sure you schedule time for when you're going to do your workouts, move your body. When are you going to eat? And what are you going to eat as well? Putting that time in, that initial planning helps your body stop making, when we have to keep making decisions, we get fatigued and we get overwhelmed. So scheduling that self time for yourself, when are you going to have some downtime? Those are very important. And then the second part of scheduling your calendar is to schedule that time with your family. That's the date nights. That's with your husband, your spouse, whatnot. That's the time that you're going to spend with your children. And then the third part would be, that's when you schedule your work. So the first thing you schedule when you schedule your calendar is time for yourself, time for your family is number 2, and then time for work would be number 3. That's how I invite people to do it, because when we're fitting ourselves, like our time with ourselves or our time with our family around our work, we're trying to fit it in the nooks and crannies, we're going to get overwhelmed. And we're also telling our family that we're putting them last, and that our work is more important. And so I think that that's a really great way to balance each other, balance everything out. Uh, when you do this time, when you're scheduling these times for your family, and whatnot, and yourself, you need to treat those as appointments, just as if you would a doctor's appointment, just as if you would do a meeting appointment. That time is sacred. You need to be intentional. You need to be present. You don't need to be on the phone. You need to be like, hey, how's your day going? Talking to each other, not just scrolling on your phone or watching TV or all these other things. I think that's really important. Having that intentional time to be present is really important to help to the burnout. What I think a lot of people do though is they're so overwhelmed, and when they're spending time with their family, all they can think about is all the things they have to do at work. And then when they're at work, they're thinking about all the things that they have to do with your family. You just have to learn how to cut that off, doing some breathing techniques if your brain's going all these places. Because when we're going all these places and we're not truly focused, we're not being present. And so I invite people to also do a brain dump. If you have all these things in your mind, write it all down, get it out of your head. And then if it's something you have to do later, then you can work on scheduling those out later. I hope that
Yeah,
answers.
yeah, absolutely. And Angela, I'm also curious to ask you how better time management from executives and employees can lead to an elevated company organizational culture. What are your thoughts there, my friend?
Well, I think that one of the things that's really important with businesses and organizations is that the way we schedule meetings. So many times we have a meeting for this, a meeting for that, a meeting for this. Well, I think that when you're going to have meetings, which I'm not saying meetings are bad, but have an agenda. Have a clearly focused agenda of what you expect to accomplish at that meeting. What are the expectations? What is this, what's going to happen at this meeting? What is the outcome that you expect to happen? when we have I see what a lot of times in organizations that they schedule a meeting and the topic is just whatever the topic is. But when they have that topic, they're not going through a cadence of what we're supposed to accomplish. There's no meeting notes, none of that. There's all these conversations going on, and then you have to schedule another meeting to accomplish what you wanted to accomplish at the first one. So having that agenda, having focused, making sure that if there's anything outside that meeting that is not like, say somebody brings up something, you're having a meeting about, let's say, a deadline, a work deadline, and then somebody brings up, oh, we need to also talk about the office Christmas party. That's not something that needs to be discussed there. So I say when there's something like that that's off topic, you put it in the parking lot. When something's in the parking lot, you can keep a whiteboard. I liked when I was holding meetings a lot, we would have a whiteboard and we'd have it in a parking lot, or we'd have the flip pads in the parking lot, and whatever was not related to that meeting at that time and you brought it up, we'd have little sticky papers, you'd write it all down, you put it in the parking lot. And then that way, after the meeting's done, then you can kind of figure out, okay, this was brought up. We have to worry about the holiday party eventually. We'll schedule that in at the next meeting. Those are the types of things that I think are so important. Another thing is if the meeting can be answered, if whatever has to be discussed can be put in an email, then put it in an email first. And then if people have questions, then have the meeting. So those are some of the things I think is really important about meetings is one, if you're going to say it's going to start it on time and end it on time. If there's other things that have to happen afterwards or the discussions aren't being focused, that's just bad timing. You got to make sure that you're leading the meeting appropriately and making sure those outside discussions don't keep happening.
Yeah, absolutely. No, Angelina, I know that you were born on Saturday, my friend, and you were also born into a family of six, and you came from humble beginnings, my friend, and you tell me that you always dedicated your life to turning obstacles into opportunity, my friend. So tell me about your upbringing and how it fuels the work you do today, my friend.
Oh, yes, thank you. Absolutely. Yeah, so I was born on a Saturday night. I was born at home. My mom did not expect to go into labor. I was born early, and so came out in the newspaper as a Saturday Night Live delivery. And I was born in the projects, meaning it was a very low income part of town. It was low income housing, and it was a hard. We had government cheese. We'd wait in line to get the peanut butter, the bread, all those free things. And my mom struggled a bit, but she took care of us. When I say she struggled, like we didn't have a lot of the extras, but what she taught us was how to make our money last. Thrift store shopping was okay. She taught us about layaway and all of those types of things. But I also saw in my mom somebody who was determined, like when she to make a better income for ourselves, for our family. And when I say that is my mom was one of the only, she comes from a family of 7 kids. My mom is the only one that ever went to school to get her bachelor's. In fact, the day that my mom got her bachelor's degree, I got to see it. There was 5 of us at the time, and we all got to see my mom graduate with her bachelor's degree. And I would remember watching her work. She'd work during the day, then she'd go to school at night. In the nights that she didn't go to school, she would be researching, she'd be typewriting, using the typewriter, always working really hard. And what she taught us is that, like, I was always one of those that was, what are you working on, mom? Asking her all the questions, like interrupting her all the time. And so what she knew is she's like, well, how do I keep this girl busy? And so my mom would give us like book reports to do, a state to research, and like little projects that she would give us to do. And she also involved us in helping out with the family. Like we'd all have dinner nights assigned. I don't remember how young I was. I probably 8 or 7 when I started making dinner. She would involve us in things so that we were busy. And also to make our family dynamic grow really, be really close and learn how to take care of these things, take care of each other. I
Yeah,
started working, go ahead.
no, go ahead, sorry.
I started working at the age like probably 10, babysitting or helping people with down the street. If people needed their wands watered, I would go and do all of those things and started to like, if I wanted to go to Disneyland, with some friends. My mom didn't have that extra money, so I would get the things I didn't need anymore. I would go and do a yard sale with friends to make the money that I needed. Um, and that really, for me, it made me like, okay, it was a struggle. It was hard. It was, but I always thought, well, I want to do more and I want to do something great in my life. And I want to help people that no matter what obstacles you go through, you can get to the other side.
Yeah, absolutely. And that sense of resilience you tapped into again when your husband became disabled, my friend. So tell me about that experience and how it redefined your life, my friend.
Oh, yes, absolutely. So when my husband and I are high school sweethearts, we've been together for over 30 years. And through high school, we were together and then we had a family together, children, things like that. And about, I want to say, I'm not sure how long it was, probably 15, 14 years or maybe 15 years into our relationship, my husband got really sick. And when he got really sick, it was some mental health issues, stuff that you couldn't see. And that, when you looked at him, you didn't see that he was in pain. And sometimes when people are disabled or have mental health issues, people don't see because you can't really see the disability that they think they're okay. But he was going through a lot. And he ended up having to retire from his job. And it was not something we had planned. Um, it was, one day you go to work and then that goes to the doctor and the doctor takes you off of work for 6 months. And then all of a sudden there's like, you have to retire. You cannot go back to work. And so that was really hard. At that time, we had a pretty good income between the two of us. We had grown accustomed to a lifestyle. We would go and do trips together. We'd, eat out. We'd be able to buy clothes for the kids, all kinds of things. And then overnight, that income is just gone, right? And so it made us really humble. It was hard. I will not say it was easy. That was when I really was about to burn out again. And I realized, okay, I'm working really hard. I can't do all this on my own. Or I was starting to lose myself. And so I started walking and running to help my mental health because I knew that I had to be strong for our children. I had to be strong for my husband. I not only was, the wife, the breadwinner of the family now, I also had to be his caregiver. I had to make sure that he was taking his medications. I had to make sure that he was going to the doctor's appointments, had to make sure the kids were still doing well, that they were doing their sports, all of these things. And that's really where time management really helped me out a lot, is making sure that I was scheduling things, keeping up on things. The things that I didn't need to do, I deleted off my schedule. And it just really was, it made me become creative in certain ways. Like, what could I do to have extra income, or what could we do to get by? And cutting back on a lot of things. And I always say that when something happens, there's a blessing in disguise. And so that allowed my husband to be able to take our kids to school when they need in high school and junior high because he was home. So there's little things that were a blessing through it, but it also made us appreciate life, made us appreciate that we could get through hard times together. And I think that was really, like again, God puts us through these things for a reason, and it's to help others. And now that with his mental health issues, our mental wellness issues, we now belong to an organization that helps other people who are dealing with mental health issues, veterans and particularly first responders. And we help them. We are part of an organization that helps them get out of their head, move their body through the use of remote control cars. And so it's been a blessing.
Oh, absolutely. And how's your husband doing now? Is he doing okay?
Yeah, he's doing okay. He's still not able to work, but we keep him busy with the organization that he's a part of. He's my cook. He loves to cook, and so there's little things that you can like. Now I have somebody who can make sure I have dinner every night. So there's little things. We've been spending more time together. He actually went through. He's now, I would say, better than he was 15 years ago for sure.
Well, I tell you, there are multiple ways to redefine and strengthen partnerships, aren't there?
Yes, for sure.
Absolutely. So I'm also, Angelina, curious to ask you how effective time management can also be a positive a signal or symptom for our mental health. How do you think that's interconnected, my friend?
Well, I think that when you have mental health issues, some of the things that you get is anxiety because of the unknowns, the unexpected things, right? Maybe you get triggers from things. When you have a routine, you have to, if your routine goes out of whack. And I think that one of the most important things is when you have people that have mental health issues or mental wellness issues, whatever you want to call it, I think that having your routine, having a structured, time, when do you go to bed, when do you wake up, making sure that you're eating properly, the proper nutrition, moving your body, getting outside to get some sun, that vitamin D will really help you. Those are really important. And I found that once we started to get a routine, in fact, my husband today still gets like he'll get up back up when he was sick and had a lot of times it was a struggle for him to get out of bed. But since we've gotten him a better, he gets up about 5 o'clock every morning. No alarm. He'll get up 5 o'clock every morning. That routine helps him get some downtime. He'll take some time to not jump from one thing to another. Like, when we wake up and we're rushed and we get on we don't have that morning downtime right when we wake up. We will feel rushed throughout the day. So he wakes up, he gets his, time alone. Um, is really important. And then, making sure that you're eating properly is important. Uh, Moving your body is important. So those are the types of things, with making sure that your routine is as close as you can every single day. That's the way that our bodies are created. I mean, when we started going to school when we were young, we had a schedule. And when we get adults, we don't like, oh, we don't want a schedule anymore. And then we get overwhelmed, but a schedule helps you. And so that's one of the things is keeping a schedule. We know what time we take our dogs out. We know what time we eat dinner. Pretty much we keep to that type of schedule. And when things have to change, that communication is the biggest thing with time management is communicating the schedule to your loved ones. Communicate even in a work structure. Communicating when the meetings are going to be, communicating the deadlines. Communication is a big factor in making sure that we're spending proper time management because when we don't communicate, then like with your spouse, you get in an argument because you didn't talk about something, then you're wasting time. So those are some of the things I think is really important is that structure, that routine, and then of course communicating the schedule to help somebody who's dealing with mental health issues.
Yeah, absolutely. And Elena, I know that you've had an extensive career, my friend, that has spanned between manufacturing and supply chain management. You've even spent some time as a federal worker in the U.S. government, and you've also, my friend, become a black belt along the way, and you've also been certified in process improvement and ISO standards, my friend. So tell me about those experiences and how they've helped you evolve as a person. What are your thoughts there, my friend?
Oh yes. So right out of high school, I was so blessed to get a job as working in as a lab intern, and so that really got me behind manufacturing. It like allowed me to figure out what are the processes. I was an intern, a research and development intern, and it just helped me figure out okay, what is the manufacturing process? How do people do R&D? Research and development, things like that. Well, that job lasted about a year, and then I was able to go into an actual manufacturing facility that did life support equipment for the military. And I started as a clerk there in the document control area, and I just loved what I was doing. I asked a lot of questions. I was always wondering, well, what do we do here? What's next? All the things. And that got me into the ISO 9000. I actually helped the company become ISO 9000 certified by writing the documents and procedures, evaluating them, like being that third party who was asking the questions of what if this happens, what next? If this happens, what's next? And so I really loved that arena. The ISO 9000 was something really new at the time. It was, this is like almost 30 years ago. So it was really new. And one of the things that from there, I got to go into lean manufacturing. They picked a handful of us to get into lean manufacturing and learn how to really, we went through the university and we, as a whole company, they picked 30 of us. We would come and we'd go to work early on a Monday, get the curriculum, and then apply the the information that we learned for throughout the week, and that really was, again, asking those what questions. What if this happens? What if that happens? And doing that research and analysis, looking at the root cause of things, and not just taking everything with a grain of salt. Like, okay, if we're having all these defects, why are we having them? Is it the process? Is it the way the environmental factors, things like that? And then that was really fun, and I really enjoyed doing it. And then I was able to go and get hired through the federal government. And so once I got hired through the federal government, I took a downgrade. I took a $7 an hour pay cut, but I knew that this was going to be a really good career choice. And so I became a secretary, and it was really, like, really different than what I had done before. But I got to go on the plant floor, the production floor. I got to see what everybody was doing. And then they found out that I knew ISO. And they're like, oh, you know ISO 9000. I'm like, yeah. So I got to start helping them write their procedures. And that helped me go from, work my way up, get that hands on in that production floor environment to, within over a couple of years, I then was actually running a few of the branches in the production area, because I was always asking those questions. What if we do this? What if we do that? Can we walk the process? Oh, we have a defect here. Has anybody walked through it? I got my green belt certification. Then I got my ISO black belt certification. I'm sorry, my Lean Six Sigma black belt certification. I became an ISO certified auditor. All of these things, because I was always that person. Even when I was little, I used to get in trouble a lot because I was always like, well, what if my mom said no? Why? Why can't we do this? If we would go clean our rooms, I'd tell her, well, it's going to take us quicker to do it because there's three of us versus just you. And looking at those ways of, like, how do we get things to be efficient? How do we ask, if this something's not working and we keep doing the same thing over and over again, why can't we change it? Uh, Getting on that floor, like walking through the processes, walking through procedures, asking the questions, asking the artisans, you're doing this and it keeps having an issue. What do you think it is? Um, that's really been, I find so much joy in looking at those things. I find so much joy in helping people eliminate their waste, helping people see that something that may have been always working may not work because technology has changed, the product material has changed, um, just different things like that. So those are some of the things that I have done throughout my career, and it's just been one of the, like I said, I love seeing things, having a problem and being able to find the solution to the problem.
Well, I'll tell you, no one will ever accuse you of not being ambitious, okay?
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. And one of your favorite sayings is that efficiency creates a freedom for the things that really matter. So I know we've talked about creating systems, but when we talk about creating efficiency, what comes to mind for you to create more freedom in our day? What are your thoughts there, my friend?
Well, when I think about the things that we're doing every day, when we pick up our phones, for example, I mentioned earlier that the average person picks up their phone 96 times a day. What is your intention? Looking at your intention when you're doing something. Is my intention just to scroll? Why do I need to scroll social media? I think being really attentive of your time, and that can really help you with your efficiencies. And when I say that is because when we see that we're wasting time, or we go into the kitchen and we forget why we're going into the kitchen. We don't have a plan in mind. Our brain is so overwhelmed with all these things, but we create that structure and we're able to accomplish the things that we need to because we are working on maybe three priority things a day. Looking at the list of things that maybe we were doing every day that we really don't need to do, and delete those, delegate things. I think that really helps us with creating efficiencies, because so many times we work on stuff, and when we work on things, like maybe I'm working on a podcast, for example, and I'm trying to upload my podcast. I'm trying to do all these things, and I really don't understand it. And it's taking me so much time, and my time is worth the value. Could it be where I can actually offset that and pay somebody else, delegate that task to somebody else to do for me? That way I can use my time for a better, more efficient system. And I'm not saying that we always have to hire things out, but I was like, what are the things that we're struggling with and we're trying to learn and we can't get them? Or maybe we have somebody else, like, for example, my husband loves to do make stickers, like the little stickers that you can like design stickers. And I don't know how to do that machine. And so it would be non-value added for me to spend a lot of time doing that when that's something that he loves to do. And so allowing him to use his creativity to do that is an efficient process for me, right? So there's sometimes we struggle with things because we want to hold so much things in. We're like, only we can do this. Well, have we ever asked somebody, hey, can you help me? Have we ever asked somebody, hey, can you do this or can you help me with this? Because I think that it's we're doing themselves a disservice when we're not using somebody who's so creative at that we're not allowing them to help us, you know? And so that's one of the things I think is a way that we can create efficiencies is if we're struggling with something or we're not able to get something done, could we delegate this to somebody else? Could we, or maybe we delete this? And also another important thing is, could we set out boundaries? Are we always saying yes to the coffee? Are we always, the date with a friend? Are we always saying yes to this, yes to that? Well, what about our goals? What are the goals that we really want to achieve? If we really want to achieve these high end, goals, we want to, have a number one podcast, we want to have all these great things. Are we really focusing on those day in and day out? Or we keep saying yes to things that aren't moving us forward? I think is important as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And, I know that you're also concerned about helping people align with their values and really focus in on, people as the core sort of cornerstone of your business because I know that you love helping people prioritize their values and help them create clarity and eliminate distraction, my friend. And I know you have your shine principles to help people do that. So I'm wondering if you can walk through those with me this afternoon.
Oh, absolutely. So my shine principles is something that I came up with. Um, I have had a life of ups and downs. I've had burnout, things like that. So one of the things that, and I talk about it on my first episode of my podcast, is during the time, it was many years ago, almost 23, 24 years ago, I had was pregnant and I lost my daughter. I was about 5.5 months pregnant and I miscarried. And instead of doing what I normally should have done was rest and do things like that, there wasn't a lot of resources and not a lot of things to help me. I just went back into working, going to school. I was going to college at night and then taking care of my son. I just completely burned myself out to the point where I collapsed at work and had to get taken by ambulance to the hospital. That's how burnt out I was. I completely crashed. And so I developed these principles to help me go through things. And I have used them over and over. Sometimes I use them every day. And they're so important. The number one is to show up. We all have goals, so we got to show up. We got to be consistently over perfection. Progress only happens when we commit daily. So, what are the daily things that I'm going to do for myself? And when I show up, I'm talking about showing up and moving your body, showing up on eating the right things for your body, filling your body, showing up to just to look at yourself in the mirror and tell yourself in the mirror, I love you. Little things like that is showing up. And I think that over time, that really helps you love yourself, stop the burnout, and things like that. H is have good habits. Whatever our habits are, making sure that they're good habits, you know, it's and repeating those habits over time. Like when I started getting into running, I could barely run half a mile. Over time, I was able to run marathons, and I did a walk run method, but, over 10 marathons, almost 60 half marathons, but I could barely walk and run half a mile when I first started running. It's that consistently habits, practicing that habit is really important. Then my I stands for intentionality. Whatever we're doing, be intentional. If we're sitting, down to dinner, put the phone away, be intentional, talk to your family. If you're working on a project, turn your phone upside down. Don't look at your phone. Be intentional. Really work on that project that you're working. That really helps you remembering to connect with your why. Why are you working on this project? Why are you doing this? What are my goals? N stands for never give up because if we want long-term success, there are going to be good days and there's going to be bad days. On those bad days, never give up. It is really important that we keep focused on the prize, right? And then E stands for everyday wins. Every day celebrate our wins. so many times we're like, we want all these big goals and we don't look at the daily things that we need to accomplish these goals. The fact that we woke up this morning, the fact that we made our bed, the fact that we were able to eat all our meals that we had planned, that we moved our bodies, all of these things, all of those things add up. We're just always like, when we're always focused on what's next, we don't appreciate how far we've come. And I think that that's so important, is to every day celebrate your wins. And so
Yeah,
that's what I use for my shine principles.
yeah, absolutely. And thank you, by the way, for sharing that emotional story about your miscarriage. And I'm glad you've thrived through adversity, my friend. And I want to thank you for opening up and sharing that with me. It's most appreciated.
Oh, you're welcome. I appreciate you giving me the time to talk about it.
Yeah, absolutely. And, Angela, I'm also curious to get your perspective on the 2024 Women in the Workplace report published by McKinsey and Company that said that over the past decade, women representation in terms of having women in leadership roles, whether they be C-suite or otherwise, has increased from about 17% in 2015 all the way up to 29% up to 2024. But obviously, progress is still slow. So tell me, what do you think it'll take to get more women in prominent leadership roles in the workplace? And what do you think about the findings of this report, my friend? What are your thoughts there?
Well, I think it's I think it's inspiring, and I also can relate to it because when I, with women not being in the leadership roles, one of the things I think is that women are scared to take on some of these roles. I really feel that they feel like they can't balance it. They're a wife, a mother, all of these things. Can they really go out there and accomplish these? Go out there and they get scared, right? They're scared of like, can I handle this? So that's one of the things. I think that more women need to apply for the supervisor roles, the leadership roles. I became a production branch manager, one of the third from the top positions at the production plant that I was working at, having never been a mechanic. So how did that happen? Asking the questions, going out on the floor. When there was a problem with a repair cycle time for a vehicle, going out there, figuring it out, walking through the processes, asking, hey, like when I became a green belt, I asked them, hey, I was a secretary at the time. Hey, can I do this? Well, why do you want to do this? Well, I see that we have a communication problem here. I think we have too much rework. I had a administrative type project that I thought we could, get some help on. They allowed me to do that. And once they saw the project there, then they're like, what else can you do? Like asking those questions, getting involved, I think is so important. And that way you understand the things because and it is still a hard thing. Like when I competed for the position that I left when I was at the production plant, 6 years prior to that, I had competed for that position. There was only 18 positions available. I mean, sorry, there was 3 positions available, 18 people competed for it, meaning the odds were good. I didn't get it. So when I did not get it that time, that was like, what do I need to do? What do I need to improve on? I was getting involved in projects that, asking every time there was something that I thought I could get, help with, I volunteered. I wasn't getting paid extra. I was working with the same people who had, got the position that I lost. But I was like, I need to learn stuff. I need to learn. Maybe I wasn't educated enough on what happens on the production floor. Maybe I didn't understand some things. So I got involved. If there was a project with paint, I wanted to figure it out. And so I would say, hey, I'll help you guys with that. Well, then when the position became available again, 6 years later, it was maybe 6 years later, it was 5 years later, and I competed for it again. This time, the position was worldwide, meaning anybody in the world could apply for this position. So my odds were not good, but I still faithfully went in for it. During that time, I did get my black belt. I had done a lot of projects. So I was really, pumped up. I felt like I could do a good job, and I got the position. And so I think that, thank you. I think sometimes we just have to put ourselves out there. If we want to be in these roles, we have to educate ourselves what it's going to be about. figure out where we can start getting the experience, because like I said, I wasn't a mechanic, so how can I get this experience? I can go on the floor, I can volunteer to do these projects, I can ask the questions, I would attend production meetings, um, everything that I could do to help out and figure out the things. And then that allowed me to take on bigger projects, help save production lines that we were about to lose because they already knew I knew how to do these things. And so I thought it was really interesting. And then even where I'm at now, I left that job because there was only two more positions that I could apply for, and those people weren't going to be retiring anytime soon. I took a job on the other side of the country. I live in California. I took a job in Maryland just because I wanted to continue to grow, continue to expand. And I think this is so important. Like, here I am as a mother, a wife, and I'm going to like travel every week for work. It was a risk, and I knew that it was something I had to take because I wanted to leave a legacy for my family. I wanted to show them that you don't have to stay enclosed on something that's not helping you grow. If you want to keep growing, because when we don't grow or we're not learning, we die, right? We're dying inside. And so we need to keep expanding and keep reaching for the goals that I think is so important. Apply for the positions. Like I said, the first time I didn't get it, but I applied. I've applied for a lot of jobs and I didn't always get them. But what can I learn from that? Asking, what can I improve on? Why didn't I get it? What is the things that I need to help better my career? What courses should I take? What type of volunteer work do I need to do to get a better understanding? And I think that that will help so much for women to ask those questions instead of just saying, "Oh, I'm a female, so I didn't get the job." No, ask the questions, figure it out, learn, because that's the only way that we're going to be able to improve ourselves.
Yeah, learning is growing, isn't it?
Yes.
Absolutely. And Angela, just before I ask you about your podcast, I'm also curious to ask you, how do you define professional resilience? What does that mean to be resilient professionally, in your opinion, my friend?
Yes, such a good question. I think that to be professionally resilient is that we need to understand that we need to continue to to grow. We need to continue to want to learn. And then we may be having some. I think that one of the important things as a professional is that we learn how to heal things, past traumas, past things that have happened in our lives. That we learn how to heal those so that we're not always so defensive when we get, because the criticism's going to come. When you're in a leadership role or you're, a professional setting, people are going to put you down for things. Mistakes are going to happen, but you got to learn how you take in that criticism. And that's part of the healing, right? So I think that everybody should have a therapist or work through some healing. I think that that's important. Everybody should have a coach or a mentor who's helping them. And I think that that'll help you with your resilience because there's going to be setbacks in life. Life is not just a straight line of, happiness. There's like ups and downs, like your heartbeat, right? And I think that as we go through as professionals, we need to know that we need to take care of our mental wellness is so important. We need to make sure that we have a purpose every single day. What is our purpose for today? Who can I bring joy to? I think that when we span that into our business, like what can I help today? Who can I help? How am I going to greet my employees today? Am I going to take something that happened negative from yesterday or a negative drive, my commute that was negative? Am I going to take that out on my employees? No, I'm going to be able to just give them the professionalism that they deserve. I'm going to give them, be happy. I think that's so important. I think that people, when they find you bring joy and you find themselves happy, you're going to inspire others as well. And so I think that that's important. It's not about being perfect, but it's about learning to shine through, learning to just be professional, be happy, know that wherever it happens in life, we we just have to be resilient and know that everything's going to happen or going to work out for the better good.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's now dive into your podcast. It's called Refine and Shine, my friend, where you talk about continuous improvement and optimization, not just in business, but in all areas of life, my friend. So tell me about your podcast because it's becoming wildly successful. So tell me all about it, my friend.
Oh, yes. Thank you for the opportunity to talk about my podcast. So, my podcast is called Refine and Shine. And the reason is I picked refine because we're always refining, right? Like life is, like I said earlier, it's not just a clear, straight path. We go through ups and downs. And as we go through these things, how could we make that whatever's happened to us, whatever pain that we've gone through, whatever trauma, whatever bad things that have happened to us, and how can we bring that, how can we find that to shine to the people we are today? Because we've I've talked to people about their mental health, people who have had business issues, people who've lost everything, grief, all these things, and how they have been able to change that pain, that hard time into a purpose. My first episode was about the loss of my child that I had lost through my miscarriage, and how all of that helped me, to become to shine, my shine principles, how it helped me to stop letting myself get burned out, how to heal, how to talk to people about the things. That's one of the things. I just wanted to share people's stories because everybody will look at the person you are today and think, wow, you're great. You got, it must have been easy, must have been handed to you. No, I want to show the stories of resilience, the story of the people who were paralyzed from a surgery, who couldn't walk and now are running marathons. Like, because I think that that's so important, because it helps my listeners when they listen to that. They're like, okay, I can do this too, because this person did this. This person was able to go through these trials and tribulations and be able to achieve, a goal, or, come be poor, born, in the projects, to becoming a six-figure income earner. If that can happen to them, it can happen to me. I just want to show others that inspiration can be found wherever you go, or just by listening to a podcast. I think that that's what's so important.
Yeah, absolutely. No, Angelina, I've got three questions left for you, and the first of those three questions is this: I wanted to take a moment to talk about the importance of blending both corporate expertise and acumen with entrepreneurial drive, my friend, because I think those two things can be interconnected. And I'm wondering your thoughts in the realm of time management and developing systems. How do you think corporate expertise and alignment can be associated with entrepreneurial drive and spirit? What are your thoughts there, my friend?
Oh, yeah, such a good question. I think that corporate experience allows, and entrepreneurship combined are the best of both worlds, right? Because the corporate system for me, taught me how to have structure, taught me about data analysis, how to make decision making, and just leadership discipline as well. At one point, I had 115 people I was supervising, so you have to really learn how to be disciplined, and with your time, and how to make sure you're showing up, you're having the meetings, you're communicating, all of those things. But in the entrepreneurship world, for me, it's taught me to be creative. It's taught me to do things that I never thought I would do. Never thought I'd have a podcast. Never thought I would be able to talk to thousands. Never thought I would be able to adapt to different things, because when you're an entrepreneur, you're going to be the one that's holding yourself accountable. But man, the creativity that you're able to do, the connections that you're able to make. Once I became an entrepreneur as well, I still work the corporate world, but once I became an entrepreneur, being able to be exposed, putting yourself in those personal development rooms, going to the coaching, meeting all the people. Like, if I hadn't been in entrepreneurship, I wouldn't have gotten to meet you, right? And so those are the things, the connections, the relationships that you're able to build on. When I think you merge the two together, it helps you with sustainable success. Because it helps you. I've been able to build systems in the corporate world, so then I've been able to help others build systems in their entrepreneurial type world, helping them become efficient, helping them thrive. And I think that once you show up and you have that structure, and you can see how it is on both worlds, you can combine them and help people become creative. And for me, it gives me fulfillment.
Yeah, and before I ask you my last two questions, you sparked me to ask one follow up in this regard. And we've talked a lot about resilience and the need to persevere forward today. And I'm curious, and really, as you know, I was born with cerebral palsy, and I talk to organizations about the importance of hiring folks with disabilities and infusing them in the workforce as a competitive advantage. And I'm wondering your thoughts on how we go about helping executives eliminate bias and sort of the misconceptions about hiring people with disabilities, and how that can really become a competitive advantage for your organizational culture. What are your thoughts there, my friend?
Well, I think that one of the things about hiring people with a disability is an advantage is because just because somebody has a disability doesn't mean that they're not smart. They're not, maybe they have something that's a little bit different than everybody else. But I find that we'll take one of my loved ones, for example. They have a disability because they may not be able to be around people. They get anxiety and all those things. They're able to create something. The words that they speak, the things that they are, like, their brilliance level is on a whole different level, because I think that God has given them, where there may be a disability, they have other things that inspire such greatness. For example, too, I have you can't see it, but well, you can't see it if you've seen me physically, but I do have a disability as well with my back. I have scoliosis, and it's not a little bit shy of getting a back brace on it. I wasn't able to have surgery or anything like that. But just because you don't see the pain that I'm in and all these things doesn't mean that I can't perform my job, right? It doesn't mean that I'm not going to try hard. And I actually find that when people have a disability that maybe if it's something you can't even physically see, whatever it is, I find that they work harder. I find that they work harder because they want to show how great, how they're appreciative of their job. They're appreciative of the opportunities that they've been provided. Um, I think it's like I do a lot of help. That organization I'm a part of is to help veterans. Veterans that are disabled, veterans that have all these issues. Whatever has happened to them doesn't mean that they're not as equal to others. I think that they work harder. I think that they want to show up. They're so appreciative of the opportunities that they have. And I think that that's really important. I think judging somebody by a disability is the wrong thing to do. And even as like for me, I'm an Hispanic woman, right? So people may think, how do I say this? I have a disadvantage a lot of people, right? And the kind of career that I'm in, but doesn't mean that I'm not a hard work that don't have a hard work ethic, that I'm not going to show up every day and do the best that I can do. And I think that's the same thing with those who have disabilities, whether you can see them or not. They're so appreciative. They're going to show up every day and do the best that they can to their ability. And why wouldn't it would be a disservice, especially to, like, if I can bring God into this, for God who's created us to not allow his work to shine by not giving this person an opportunity.
Yeah, absolutely. Just before I ask you my last question about your own legacy and how you want that to be defined, I'm also curious to get your thoughts on this peer research study that came out this year that indicated that 16% of U.S. marriages have a wife that's the primary breadwinner in the home today, and if a family has children, women have now become 40% responsible as the primary breadwinner in today's households, my friend, in the U.S., according to the Pew Research Center, my friend. So I'm wondering your thoughts on those findings and how women have really developed a professional superpower. What are your thoughts there?
Well, I think that those numbers reflect the evolution of what leadership is and what family looks like today. Women are no longer waiting for opportunities, they're creating them. Being the breadwinner doesn't diminish family values. It actually demonstrates strength, adaptability, and love in action. It shows how far we've come, what we're capable of as women, being able to balance responsibilities with our purpose. And I think that we're modeling with the next generation that it doesn't matter what role you're in. I think that as a family dynamic, if it works for your family, great. I would say for us in my particular family, there were times when when I made more money, and then my husband would, and then up and down, up and down. And then when he became disabled at that time, he was making more money. But because there was times when he wasn't making money, like, life has kind of happened to us, like right before my daughter, so I do have two kids. I miscarried one, but I do have two kids. Before my daughter was born, my husband had gotten laid off, which would have been the worst opportunity, the worst thing that could happen at that time. But you know what it allowed for? It allowed me to be able to still go to school and work full time after, and not have to worry about a babysitter, because here my husband was able to take care of our daughter from the time she was born. We didn't have to worry about a babysitter and all those things. And I had this opportunity. Was a really good leadership role at my organization. I was going to school, to the university. So it allowed us to do both things, but yet still having a family, a parent present for our children. And I think that that's okay, because there are some of us, like for me, I always knew I wanted to go to school. I always knew I wanted to get my bachelor's degree. I always knew I wanted to be in this professional world, because watching my mom, with her struggles, working two jobs, trying to make ends meet, I knew I wanted the highest level of job I could take, right? I was going to go for it. And I always told my husband that if I'm going to have an opportunity to do this, I'm going to do it. And yet I was blessed with that. And that decision meant, and when he became disabled, it was like, okay, I had gotten kind of lapsed, meaning I was still in a good role, but I wasn't going out there and like, okay, I need to do this. I kind of lost my drive, because I was like, well, our income's comfortable. But then when it was only up to me, it got me to drive even harder. It filled me up. And it just became my strength and my purpose. And I think that that's okay. I think that's okay to balance it. Who's to say that, like that a man can't be at home? I call it a domestic engineer. That's okay. My husband helps us. He, like, even today, he's the one that makes sure we have dinner every night. Majority of the night, he's the one that does the cooking, the grilling, and things like that. And then I balance it out by doing some things like the laundry, cleaning the restrooms. Like, it's okay to have that balance, like, and to work it out. It's whatever works for your family is what's important, and to stop looking at who's doing what and on the outside world, because when we're comparing ourselves on the outside world, we're losing. It's like comparison's a thief of joy, right? We're looking at how everybody else is doing things, and like, who cares? It's what's in your family dynamic and what's under your roof. It's what's important.
Yeah, absolutely. And Adriana, my final question for you has to do with personal and professional legacy and how you want that to be defined, my friend.
Okay, so when I left the job in the production plant, what I didn't tell you was, in that when I was working at that production plant, my great grandpa helped build that building that I was working in. My grandma was the first female journeyman mechanic at that facility. And so when I decided to leave, everybody was like, your family's worked here for so long. Yes, they did. At different times. Like when I got hired, everybody had retired, right? But when I got hired, I worked from almost close to the bottom to the third position to the top. That was a pretty long jump of positions that I was at, but I felt like I couldn't keep going. Like there was nothing else for me to go. And what would disservice would it be to God to not honor the what He had put in my head, my mind, and the creativity and all the things and aspirations that I wanted, if I didn't go out for them? And so I left a very comfortable job to go out there and look and start, and I showed others that you don't have to stay in the same building. You don't have to stay in the same job. You don't have to keep doing all those things. My job is to fulfill the purpose that God has put on my heart. And that it was to start my entrepreneurial journey. That was how I got into coaching, because as I was traveling to this other job once a week, I had to travel. During those airplane rides, I was intentional by not watching movies, but creating my coaching programs, starting to write the podcast scripts that I wanted, and doing all of these things, to show that you can balance your life and you can go after the things that you never thought possible. You just have to take the first initiative. And that's one of the things I want to show my family and my legacy, is that no matter what your circumstances are, there's still so much more ahead, and it's for you to take the first step to move yourself to the next position.
Yeah, absolutely. And, Adriana, I want to know if people want to get connected with you, my friend. What's the best way they can do that?
Oh, yes. If anybody wanted to reach out to me, my website is Angelina Rivera. So it's spelled Angelina, and then Rivera, which is RIV as in Victor, ERA.com. And that has all of my links to my social media. It has my links to my podcast. All of my information's on there. Follow me on social media. Follow me on YouTube. I love sharing stories. I love giving time management tips, all the things. And so follow me.
Well, my friend, I have to tell you, it's been a delight to get to know you this afternoon and to engage in conversation. You're really making a difference in the field of time management, and it was a real privilege and honor to engage in conversation with you this afternoon. And I want to thank you for being here, my friend. It's most appreciated.
Oh, thank you so much. I appreciate it.